off with Dr. James Ramsey has a statement that he'll read.
When the university first learned of the allegations against our men's basketball program, we initiated the university's existing processes to undertake a complete and thorough review of information concerning potential violations of NCAA legislation. This included hiring Chuck Smrt of the Compliance Group, who has extensive experience in NCAA inquiries, and I also activated the University of Louisville Investigative Committee, which includes 3 faculty members. Soon thereafter, the institution and the NCAA began a joint inquiry. The committee and I have been provided regular updates over the last several months as to the progress of the inquiry. Yesterday, as chairman of the investigative committee, I received the most recent update. Based upon the available information gathered by the NCAA enforcement staff and the University of Louisville, I determined that it was reasonable to conclude that violations had occurred in the men's basketball program in the past. After consulting with Tom, I made the decision to withhold the men's basketball program from all conference and NCAA postseason competition following the 2015-2016 men's basketball season. I recognize that this is a significant penalty for our program, and this will be a disappointment to our student athletes and to many in the University of Louisville family, our students, our faculty, our staff, our alums, our friends, and our great fans. The university is continuing to cooperate with the NCAA on the resolution of this matter, and will evaluate the further information as the inquiry continues. While this was a difficult decision, it was made in the best interest of the University of Louisville. We will be able to provide additional information surrounding the inquiry and this decision at the inquiry's conclusion. Given the ongoing nature of the inquiry, in accordance with NCAA bylaws, we cannot comment further at this time. I want to assure our students, our faculty, our staff, that we at the University of Louisville remain focused on our educational mission and state mandate. We continue to provide our students with the very best learning environment that allows them to be successful. We continue to be focused on our research and our service to our community. Finally, I continue to support Tom Jurich, Coach Pitino, and our men's basketball program. With that, I'll turn it over to Tom.
You know, when the allegations first broke from the people up in Indianapolis, you know, we said along myself and Coach Pitino especially, we said, if there's some wrongdoing, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We want the truth, and we will deal with it. We will own our problems. We found out yesterday that we had a problem that was verified by Chuck and the NCAA. And so we want to deal with this in the most rapid way we possibly can. Although it's a very disappointing time, a very sad day for all of us. It's extremely sad for our players, who I think you've all come to know and love as a great group of men, young men. We want to do what's right by the university and by the NCAA. So we support these actions. They're going to be very painful, as we all know, but we will move forward too as we continue to grow. Coach?
Well, I just met with a basketball team, and to take you back, painful probably I could characterize as one of the best understatements I could make. This summer, actually this spring, I contacted Ralph Willard and said to him, listen, Ralph, I think we've got something special here with the group of guys coming back. I'd like you to put away your golf clubs and just help us for 1 year, because I think this is the most special group. I said, we're going to go to Puerto Rico and play, and I think you'll enjoy yourself more than any time you've ever coached when you meet these guys. And he concluded that I was right over the summer. We didn't know how good we would be, but we knew we had a special group. I compared it to the 1987 Providence team, which is probably as close to my heart as any team I've coached. And they went on, and every single day, at least 4 to 5 times a week, I gave them some inspirational footage of teams of mine that did well in the NCAA tournament, because they were an inexperienced group. Nobody, with the exception of Quentin and Nana, really competed in the NCAA tournament before, but I knew they had great promise. And I told them about the journey to a Final Four, to a championship, and we talked about it all week long. After they picked themselves off the mat against Virginia and beat North Carolina, standing at 18-4, second in the ACC, we believed that it was in our grasp, that all these dreams that Damian and Trey had. When they came here, they said to me, "Coach, we've never experienced the NCAA tournament, and Louisville has a record for going far. We just want the experience one time of playing in the tournament and seeing how far we can go." And over the summer, Damian kept that video you see before the game of "Who's got my back?" He kept saying that over and over, and after the North Carolina win, they were screaming it in the locker room. And I just left them and spoke to Damian and Trey, who will be available to you at 6 o'clock tonight over at our practice facility. I just spoke to both of them before we met with the team. And I continue to realize how special they are, because it doesn't happen every day for a coach. As I told them the penalty, they all stood up and just started hugging Damian and Trey as they cried. And you know, it's never easy for the people that don't deserve it. It happens all the time. This is not a team that wasn't going to make the tournament. This is a team that is very much favored to go very far in the tournament. So this penalty is quite substantial, much more. It comes with complete shock to me, because I've been kept in the dark with all the things that Dr. Ramsey has gone through with his committee, and coaches are supposed to be kept in the dark. It wasn't anything on purpose. The coaches are supposed to be totally oblivious to anything that's going on when it comes to the investigation. That being said, I've had my share of crying and didn't want to go through it anymore. But this is certainly a night of extreme pain. Last night especially, before telling them this. But as we move forward, you know, I go through so many, being in this town, difficult times, because Kentucky is part of the fabric of this community. And the fact that I coached at Kentucky for 8 years, people always ask me what I remember most about my experiences. Was it the championship? Was it the 3 Final Fours? Was it the Christian Laettner loss? You know what I remember the most is when I got there, some guy was living on a billboard for 30 days until they hired a coach. And they said that this would be the nadir, the lowest point in Kentucky history. And the 4 guys that were left behind weren't very good. Probably not going to play for you, but that's all you got. And I told those 4 guys, stop hanging your heads, get yourself into shape and get with it. It's not the end of the world. We'll survive. You'll survive and go through much worse than this. But the thing I was blown away with everything that I've experienced there, for the next 2 years, even though that first year's team beat Shaquille O'Neal, Stanley Robertson, Chris Jackson, the thing that was most amazing to me is we had the largest crowds in the history of Kentucky basketball, and this team wasn't going anywhere. And then the following year, we won the SEC, although we couldn't be acknowledged or go to the tournament. And now this team, the year after we lost that game to Christian Laettner at the buzzer, and those 4 guys who weren't very good, out of shape, their 4 names were put onto the rafters at Rupp, and they were known as the Unforgettables. And the lesson that I learned about that was the support for a difficult time from the fans. See, Damian and Trey have nothing to look forward to future-wise right now. They were hit over the head with a sledgehammer, and they're devastated, as well as the rest of the team, for actions that they weren't involved with. They came here to go far in a tournament. They've done their job. They've captured the imagination of our fans. They've led a basketball team with an attitude second to none. The reason I bring about that story of the largest crowds at Kentucky and the tremendous support those 4 kids got was that the Final 4 home games is all they have left. And it's up to our fans, our administration, our university to lift them up as high as they can be lifted, along with the rest of the members of this basketball team who have just given me so much personal satisfaction and happiness. So I call for our fans to come out in the Final 4 games in full force to honor not only Damian and Trey, but it's all we have left this season to look forward to. This is a punishment I thought would never happen this season. This is a decision that's as harsh as anything I've seen. But I'm a soldier in this army, and I will go along with Dr. Ramsey, and certainly there's no one in life I have more respect for than Tom Jurich. So we will go along with this, and we will play the last 9 games of the season as if they're the last 9 games we'll ever play the game. So I would like you to call to our fans to come out in full force tomorrow in support of these incredible young men. And that's all I can ask for as a head basketball coach. Thank you.
This time we will take questions, knowing that some of the subject matter you may want to get into and maybe not be able to address. We do have Chuck Smrt with us that may be able to talk about procedurally some of the things that you may have questions for, but you're welcome to right now the questions.
President Ramsey, has the university actually received the notice of allegation from the NCAA at this point? Where does that process?
We cannot comment, unfortunately, on the status, timeline, or any of the specific information. A case is not concluded until the Committee on Infractions issues a report. There's been no report issued in this case. Therefore, we cannot comment about any procedural items or where the status of the case is.
Dr. Ramsey, by doing this now, I hope that this will be enough.
Yes.
Dr. Ramsey, when this was done with Syracuse, we knew pretty much what the allegations and what the findings were. How can you take a public action and not make public your basis for your decision?
We became aware of information that confirmed that we had violated NCAA rules and regulations. We said from the beginning we would conduct a thorough, complete, honest evaluation. The investigation, inquiry is still going on, but we know that we have committed a violation, so we're taking this action.
Dr. Ramsey, can you address the decision process on why doing it now as opposed to a year from now knowing that you have players who are penalized for not playing?
We looked at all the options. We looked at waiting. We looked at the, and Chuck can explain better the penalty structure of the NCAA, but we believe that when you looked at everything, taking and self-imposing the penalty at this time was certainly in the best interest of the university and our program. So Chuck, do you want to talk about the level 1 and the different categories of penalties?
Well, the institution hasn't taken a position yet specifically on what I would call the classifications, the various classifications, but based upon the available information, the belief was the institution is in violation. So then we looked at what the appropriate action to take was, and we came out with the postseason ban. I think this is a very significant step for an institution when the case is not concluded. But it verifies what President Ramsey and Tom said early on. We're going to continually evaluate and assess the information, and when we believe it rises to the level of a conclusion that a violation occurred, we're going to act, and that's what they have done.
Dr. Ramsey, can the NCAA still impose higher penalties on you?
The case is not concluded, in any case, until the Committee on Infractions issues a report, there are always going to be continual assessment of information, of penalties. So the institution is going to continually assess what it has and what, if anything, needs to be undertaken.
Rick, in your history as a head coach, is this, and just as a coach, is this your worst day?
Well, without ranking bad days, I will say that speaking to the team and watching my players cry and hug Damian and Trey, it's pretty difficult.
Hey, Tom, you said yesterday that you found out you had a problem. Does that mean that you guys had new information obtained or something that you didn't already know?
No, the problem was brought to me yesterday. They have an investigative committee on campus that Dr. Ramsey heads up. I was not a part of that, nor should have been. I'm like Coach, pretty much have been in the dark on this whole thing until there were some findings, and we all said once we knew there was findings, we would act on them as quickly as possible, and that's what our decision has been to be.
To this day, Coach Pitino nor Tom know the specifics of the investigation.
Dr. Ramsey, you were talking about the harsh nature and the shocking. Have you or will you talk to the team and explain to the guys who had this taken away from them? Do you find that a need?
If the coach thinks that's the appropriate thing to do, I'll be more than happy to.
Just for information that you have at this point, are there any other penalties or personnel changes that are involved?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the full question.
Based on what you have recently learned, are there any additional penalties you haven't announced for any personnel?
No.
Are there any current employees of the university who are implicated in anything?
Again, that would be talking about the specifics of an ongoing inquiry.
I don't know whether this would fall into that category or not. Has the NCAA investigator been on campus and interviewed personnel?
Unfortunately, that would fall in that category.
Is there any sense how long this is going to take? Is there a game that you see on the right?
No, and I appreciate your frustration, but one of the disadvantages when a school takes action while the inquiry is ongoing, again, it shows decisiveness. It shows showing the integrity of the institution. Unfortunately, it also handcuffs the institution that can't talk about it. At some point, though, this information will come out and you'll be able to evaluate, here's what the institution had at different points along the way, and here's the actions they've taken up. I understand the frustration that you don't have some of the information that's a basis for a decision. Unfortunately, because the institution acted so decisively at this time, before the conclusion, we're bound by NCAA bylaws and what can be said. This is an institutional decision.
Is there a history that by doing this, the NCAA looks more favorably in trying to solve it in a constructive way?
There's an expectation that any institution, when it discovers a violation, it's supposed to take actions. And the institution came to a conclusion that a violation occurred and it's taking this action.
Rick, is this even in your worst nightmare? Do you imagine that this was a possibility for this season, or do you just completely non-satisfied?
A week ago, after speaking with Tom, I didn't think that there was any possibility of that happening. But like I said, Tom and I have been in the dark on this from day one. Just to take you back a little bit, Chuck had a conversation with me when I first said, absolutely, I had no knowledge of any of this. And by the way, when I said that, there's not a coach in Division I, II, III basketball who would have tolerated anything like that. So it's not just that I wouldn't tolerate. There's not one coach, the most sinister individual I've ever met in my life, wouldn't tolerate anything that was being said. So it's not any patronizing on my part. That being said, At that point in time, I just came out and said that I had absolutely no knowledge, and then I said, and I can't find anyone who has any knowledge, and Chuck said to me, you can't say that. You can't go to a press conference with the ACC and say that, because you're basically intimidating witnesses. How do you know that? Well, I saw the point, and that's why I didn't go, because I can't just keep saying no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment. I think it's foolish, because I'm not that type of person. So, not in my wildest dreams I think this would happen. Like I said, I've been giving them motivational things every single day, getting them ready for the tournament, getting them ready for the ACC tournament, and preparing them game by game for something magical, because I thought this was a magical group. You never know.
But you said last month that you were persuaded that something scurrilous had happened. What was your expectation of how this was going to go?
You know, I keep going back to where you know, I didn't read the book, and you know, I've thanked Eric a number of times for coming up with all the inaccuracies in 30-40% of the book. That being said, where there's smoke, there's fire. Tim, I just can't fathom why. I just don't understand why in any of this. None of it makes sense. I know why someone robs a bank. They want the money, you know, but none of this still to this day, makes any sense to me at all. Any of the actions that went on. So that's just the thing that I have many sleepless nights over, is I still can't figure out why.
That being said, by acknowledging that you thought that there was some smoke there, do you expect penalty to be a year from now, or will it be better?
You know, again, because everybody just kept me in the dark, if I would ask questions, the only thing I did was I went to the managers, I said, did you guys know of anything? I went to my nephews, did you guys see anything at all? I went to the dorm person and said, did you see anything at all? Just, I wanted to know how to correct a situation that I may have to deal with, and I got a negative response, and at that point, Tom told me, just let the investigators do it, just let it die completely, and just coach the team. He kept saying, it's just coach the team. I'll handle everything else, and that's what I did.
This is for you, Chuck. You mentioned Coach being in the dark. Why would Mr. Jurich be in the dark as this all happened?
The way it played out at this institution is there, as other institutions, there's an investigative committee, and the specific information reported during interviews is only provided to that and to that group, and it's to protect the integrity of the investigation. What Coach was talking about was when he heard initial information back late August, early September, not once the committee got up and running and when we started communicating with the NCAA. What the institution is talking about is very common at most institutions that are going through this type of review.
Two more questions.
Chuck, is there a financial implication for your team that have made the Final Four? How much money, maybe comment on this, how much money that would have been generated from NCAA tournament wins? How much financially you're getting up in that?
We've not even looked at that, Fred.
Money was not an issue.
Dr. Ramsey, is there one specific allegation yesterday that guided this, or there are multiple?
I cannot comment on that, Chuck.
It was a continual and these types of things, you're continually assessing and evaluating information to come up with conclusions, and it was based upon conversations yesterday. It seemed reasonable that based upon all of the information that a violation had occurred, and again, going back to the premise of the inquiry, we're going to get at the truth, and once some information is discovered that a violation occurred, an action will be taken, and you can see that this happened within 24 hours.
Coach, how hard did you fight against this when you found out this was going to happen?
You know, it's obviously, I had second thoughts, but I put all my faith in Tom. We're not only great friends, but my respect for him. He has far more. This is his job. if we made any mistakes, it was keeping him in the dark. It's okay to keep me in the dark. But I respect him, believe in him, and although it's very difficult, it's a very difficult time, he's the leader of our university. I have all my faith in him that the right thing is being done. And I've got the tough job ahead, and that's why I've called for the fans to get behind these guys and give them a good going-away party. But I totally have great faith in Tom. Dr. Ramsey gets paid to make a lot of tough decisions with this university in mind, with the benefit of the university in mind. It's not for me to second-guess anybody. Like I said, I'm a soldier in this army, and I do what the generals say. And I believe in the generals here and believe in what they... It's tough to say we have all this integrity. It's tough to say we do all the things the right way when this has gone on. But I believe from the bottom of my heart that we stand for great integrity, we stand for academic excellence, we stand for the student-athlete doing the right things. And if I catch anybody doing the wrong thing, there's always huge consequences to pay. And I've done that for over 41 years. And so, unfortunately, we're going to have to go through this, and this team that's totally innocent will have to go through it, but I'll get them through it. I got those Kentucky guys through it. I'll get this group through it.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, everybody, for being here. One point, we will be following up with our fans that have purchased a tournament.